Ring ring, it's time for another episode of Crossplay Conversations, the show where we dive deep into the world of video games while keeping it light. I'm your host, Luke Lewis, and this week I have three friends with me, kicking us off in 2025, our first episode of the year. It's the Wii U Wonder Kid, Jacob McCourt.
Hi, I'm ready to scream about video games from 2024 into a microphone. Let's go.
God, this is going to be a loud episode. We also have the sneaker savant, Joseph Hooper.
What up, everybody?
Happy New Year. Happy indie games. Good vibes all around. And rounding out our quartet, it is the queen of the cozy game from LukeWarmGames, Claire Helmberger.
Hey, guys.
Hello. I feel like you're the artist in residence of this podcast.
I'm also the only one not currently wearing a blue hat, which is kind of funny.
Okay.
You
gotta stand out. You gotta stand out. You know, you gotta do your own thing, just like with some of these picks that we'll be highlighting today. Mm-hmm. So it's that time of year, everybody. I think I like to think of us as we close out the year with our Game of the Year content. We're truly probably the last outlet podcast putting out Game of the Year content, but we took our time. We played a bunch of stuff over holiday break, and we're going to talk about the best games of 2024. So we have 13 categories that we'll be running through, all culminating in the reveal of our cumulative top 10 list. I've crunched the numbers. I know definitively what our top 10 list is. This episode will be split up into two parts just to keep things nice and well paced. But today we're going to be discussing, yes, Jacob, question before I reveal what categories we're talking about today.
Just as a tease to get people interested in the second part of this.
Sure.
How many games are on our top 10 list?
So mathematically, it's a good question, and some would say, obviously, it's 10, Jacob. No, we don't do things normally here. So the way I calculated our top 10 list was everyone sent me their top 10 individually, and then I assigned a point value for slots 10 through first place. And if there were ties, as in each game had the same point total across all of our combined lists, I included all games within that. So our top 10 list is actually 14 games. So we're highlighting even more. But yeah, it's ironically not even like the first or second place. It's the 9th place slot. There was a lot of variety in the back half of our list, which is really fun. So yeah, I'm excited to reveal those. And it's also fun because the three of you on this pod don't know what made the cut. I know what made the cut, so I hold all the knowledge. I'm like the Wizard of Oz, except legit.
Actually good.
Yeah. Spoilers for Wicked /
The Wizard of Oz.
A decades old film. But anyway. All right. Shall we get right into it? So our categories for today, we are discussing best gameplay loop, most underrated game, the Business Boys 2024 Bit of Bad Business, the Luke Lewis Chill Out with a Coffee on a Rainy Weekend Afternoon game, Hooper's Puzzle Paradise Award, and Claire's Creatively Cozy Award are our categories for today. So in years past, we've done the Business Boys Bit of Bad Business, which is kind of Jacob's treasured category. So we decided to each have our own specialized category that kind of highlights one of our unique niches within games. So I'm excited for those. But shall we get right into things with our first category?
Let's do it.
All right. I'll read this one. So we have for best gameplay loop, our nominees are Balatro, Mini Shoot Adventure, Animal Well, Paper Trail, Children of the Sun, I'm Your Beast, Ite, and Arco. Jacob, you've played quite a few of these. Do you want to kick us off with some of your top level thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm the only one on the call that's played I'm Your Beast. Is that a fair?
I did a Next
the full
Fest demo. Yeah, I haven't played the full game.
Yeah, full game. Yeah.
Zalvia Nelson and team continue to ship bangers. This harkens back to the feeling you got from playing Neon White, which was high up on the list. Might have been our game of the year, really high in 21 or 22.
I think we gave it best multiplayer, which at the time was kind of a spicy one.
Yeah, asynchronous multiplayer. What's that? But honestly, it's very similar to that, where there's just this wonderful kinetic gameplay that you get in it, where you are picking up guns and picking up melee weapons and throwing them or hitting people. And even when you shoot a bad guy in the head, there's like a really satisfying X that comes up. And it's just like, it reminded me really a lot of 13 if you played that game back in the day based on a comic book. Might have been a Ubisoft game even, I don't remember, but it just gave me that neon white feeling, and I just was always like, okay, cool, one more time. And even if I failed the level, it was like, put it in my veins, let's go one more time.
For sure.
Cool.
This doesn't necessarily factor into the category, but does the story hold up in that one? Because when I played the demo, I was like, oh, is this neon white but with a cool story that's interesting? No offense to neon white.
I feel like we're
but I
still
was
going
not
after
there.
neon white.
I wasn't there for the story. I wasn't.
That story.
It did not have me, but
I will say the thing that Strange Scaffold does really well is they do great stories within constraints. And so this was told almost exclusively through VO, and then the script being put on screen while it was being told. And Zalivia Nelson is just like a great voice actor. So I will say that the story is better than it should be, or better than it can be described on paper. It will not blow you away, but the voice acting is the killer part of this one.
okay. I can dig it.
Should I talk about Arco really fast too?
Sure, and I can talk about
Yeah.
that one as well.
Loved
Hit it.
Arco. It's like a DS game in that the gameplay loop of the combat is just really satisfying. It's a real-time / turn-based kind of
tactical RPG, I guess is
Yeah.
like the term.
Yeah, how would you is that how you describe it?
I think so, but yeah, to your point, it's like smooth, fast-paced turn-based combat. Like it is turn-based, but you're going so quickly that it doesn't really feel like a traditional turn-based game.
Yeah, it's very much like I mean this in the best way possible, that if you told me Intelligent Systems made this game, I would be like, yes, of course. It's just that polished and cool. And do I wish there was a little more variety and some of the arrows and projectiles and melee weapons? Sure, but I think that the core of it's really fantastic.
And to the gameplay loop, in addition to the combat, I just loved scavenging and finding items, then talking to people and getting cool story bits, and then jumping back into the fast-paced combat. Like it was one I didn't dread jumping into like random combat encounters because it was pretty fun. But I think it's like all of the sum of all of its parts is really quite good, and I think they all work really well together. So it's a strong contender for sure. Claire, talk to me about Paper Trail. That was one you threw on here.
Yeah, so I played Paper Trail on mobile, which I think might have impacted how much I liked the gameplay, which is you're essentially folding the gameplay world like origami in order to solve puzzles and get through the different pages, the different areas of the level. And it was just really cool, the tactile nature of dragging from the corners of the screen in various creative ways, the corners and the edges of the paper, and then using that to manipulate objects and get your way across and through and find. There were also little like collectibles you could find as well for the added challenge. So I thought that it was really unique gameplay loop, and it was really captivating, and each area had its own, or it introduced new mechanics that then built on each other as the game went on, and I just thought it was really well done.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Did you play Assemble with Care, Claire?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because this feels like something that, given a person, I really liked Assemble with Care. This sounds like a thing that I would really like especially on mobile. Like the kinetic nature of it sounds exactly like it's up my alley.
Yeah, it's really cool.
My only thing with the mobile is I almost would want to play it on a slightly bigger screen, like maybe like an iPad size. I think it works well on the...
I didn't have that qualm with it. Cool. I felt like it didn't lose the kind of the beauty of the, and because it's really pretty hand, like watercolor painted art style. I didn't feel like I lost that on the small screen. I did kind of have to hold it close to my face, but
sure. Fair enough. All right on.
I liked that, I think, more than I would have doing it point and click with the mouse.
And is that one a Netflix?
It's on
mobile?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Cool.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I played it for free.
What's the difficulty range? Like by the time you were getting to the end, how had the difficulty scaled up compared to like the beginning?
I felt like it it wasn't necessarily a linear progression. There were some areas throughout that I was like, oh, this is hard, I do not know how to solve it. And there's a really interesting hint system where it like kind of shows you the folds one at a time, without showing you what you need to manipulate once you do the fold. So you still have to kind of think your way through it. But there were some where it was like the hints aren't enough.
Okay.
But that kind of like in the middle. And then at the end, it wasn't necessarily the hardest that it ever was at the end. But yeah, there were
Okay.
definitely some areas that are really easy and some that are pretty hard. Mostly it's just like not too difficult.
Sweet.
I couldn't imagine playing this on a controller just looking at it. Like if you're not on a touchscreen or a mouse even, like how are you playing Paper Trail?
I think it'd be
And
not
there's
as
like
fun.
a tactile element to it
Yeah.
too, where it's just like, oh, this is satisfying. Like I think that adds to it
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, nice. Joseph, I want to kick it to you as the Animal Well stan. Claire and I also love and played Animal Well, so we're right there with you. But talk to us about Animal Well.
Yeah, Animal Well is interesting for gameplay loop because there isn't necessarily a gameplay loop. Like there's not necessarily a taught like action or series of actions that you are going to just fall back on like for the perpetuity of the game. I think the best thing about Animal Well is that the gameplay loop is almost like just like a straight line where you're just playing and you're just trying different things out up until you basically finish the game, and like no puzzle is the same, no area is the same, no like secret for the most part is the same, and you're always going to find something new to try, which is very hard to do in a game, right? We're talking about a game that, you know, most people probably put 12 hours, if not, you know, many more in to get like 100%. And you know, for there to be that many unique and interesting ways to use like the core mechanics that are introduced to you in the game, including some mechanics that you might not even find until you beat the regular game, absolutely splendid. Like I can talk at length about Animal Well in different ways, but I think the gameplay loop in general is just very interesting, and I hadn't played anything quite like that before, so yeah.
I think adding on to your point too, it feels really special within this category to me on the basis of it's so open-ended and you can go in so many different directions. You can unlock different mechanics before others, and I think the way that that game flows so well and allows you that space to maneuver, and I rarely felt frustrated in Animal Well, even if I got to a puzzle and I had no idea what was going on, because it was just my little blob. I'm gonna go the opposite direction and see what's up over there and find something new and intriguing that then maybe um, gives me that aha moment for something else I discovered previously. So I think it's a cool one for this category for sure.
Is
Yeah.
the loop of like poking and prodding until you figure it out, and then you follow the thread that you've pulled, and then
I
see
think-
it through, and then pull
yeah.
a new one?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
essentially what it would be. Yeah.
I think I'm the only person on the call. Claire, did you play Animal Well? Because I did not.
Yeah.
You did. I'm the only one
I
who
played a
didn't.
bunch.
So
Yeah, it's really cool. I especially love how it doesn't like tell you what to do each time you get a new object. You're just kind of like, huh, I wonder what this does. And there are a lot of, I feel like, different ways you can use each thing.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's just like constant exploration and creativity and discovery. It's really cool.
Well, and then we've talked about this on the pod previously when Animal Wells come up, but just the way it's like these items and mechanics you're doing are not typical items of this genre too. So the game does a really great job of like teaching you this language and letting you kind of run wild with it in a way that is structured and engaging throughout. So yeah, I love Animal Well. I'll chat a little bit about Mini Shoot Adventure. Ended up being one of my favorite games of the year. I had an absolute blast with this one. The elevator pitch, as we mentioned previously, is Zelda top-down adventure meets twin-stick shooter. I think the pacing of the gameplay loop is what does it for me. I think it strikes a really nice balance where you're constantly leveling up and unlocking new abilities and strengthening your abilities as you're exploring. You're finding new secrets, fighting bigger enemies, more elaborate levels, and I think the game scales really nicely where it started simple and I think it just continued to elevate itself, and I saw it through to credits and had a blast, kept playing after credits because I wanted to uncover more of the secrets. But I think the gameplay loop of exploring, finding hidden objects, leveling up your ship, rinse and repeat is a really good one. For me personally, I don't know if it hangs necessarily with some of these other games that we have on the list, but I do want to give it its shout out here.
Did you struggle with the map? Because I would say the thing that made me bounce off Mini Shoot after playing for 2 or 3 hours is just after the first boss, I could not, for the life of me, figure out where to go next.
Yeah, the map isn't awesome compared to other like Metroidvania style games this year. Like Prince of Persia nailed it. I'd say even Animal Well, I think, is a more comprehensive map to follow and understand what's going on. I think I just explored the world enough and enjoyed the gameplay loop enough that I just got used to being like, okay, it's 2 screens past this thing where this thing was. Like, I just got to know the world really well, so I wasn't relying on the map as much. That said, I don't think you should have to play. Like, I played it that much just because I was enjoying exploring and running around, and it ended up being kind of a podcast game for me in the back half, just because I liked the gameplay. But yeah, I could see that. That's like my one slight knock is the map, I would say. Jacob, you and I play Children of the Sun.
Yeah, Children of the Sun is rad. It is a Sniper Elite psychedelic thing where you shoot a bullet and make it go through people's heads. And as you shoot one person, you can then redirect the bullet. And so it's like this combat puzzle that I think is really, really fun to play. And it's not something that I've played before. So that's what I really loved. I think that's kind of it in a nutshell, Luke.
Yeah, it's punk rock as fuck. It's just like the music is dope. It's just like oozing with like grungy style. In terms of the gameplay loop though, I did have a really fun time like replaying levels, trying different paths, and then my favorite thing is at the end of each level where it shows the bullet trajectory map as you're moving through stuff. I haven't finished that one, but I just got to the point where I'm like warping the bullet and moving stuff around and like changing trajectory, and so it continues to add new layers. So it's a good one for sure.
I think we just haven't talked about Balatro and Ite.
You want to chat about Ite real quick, and then we can talk about the Joker in the room?
Real fast. I don't think this one will be in the top 3, but I did want to give it its flowers and say that you play it as a, été in French is summer. You go to Montreal in the summer and you essentially paint to make a living, but you also paint the world, and that is the most satisfying part of that game, is filling in the world with your kind of watercolor cursor on PC, and then when an object is fully colored in, if you will, it does this really cool light up, and then it becomes out in full color, and then a bunch of like paint bubbles come out of the whatever you painted in, and you collect them, and just that was almost like popping bubbles in a in like the shipping bubbles or whatever. What do you call those?
Bubble wrap.
Oh, like bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap. Yeah. Thank you. Shipping bubbles. It gives you the same feeling as shipping bubbles.
It's just like a nice, like warm brain massage of like, oh yes, thank you for
exactly.
this.
Yes.
Love it. That's awesome. We all played Balatro, loved Balatro, have gushed about Balatro. It feels like the weird one of like, I think it could honestly win this category, but I like don't have a ton more to say about it. I'm still playing it. I purchased it again on my phone. Haven't stopped playing it really throughout the year.
It's just injected into my veins. How do y'all
feel in relation to the category? It feels like cheating, but it's like it is incredible. It's weird.
Goated. I mean, when we're talking about best gameplay loop, like by definition, I mean this game is it in my opinion. Like I just keep coming back to it. When it first came out, when it came out on the Steam Next Fest demo, I was like, wait a second, why are they letting me play for so long? What's going on?
Yeah.
That alone was satisfying enough for me to be like, wait a second, this might be best gameplay loop of the year. The game comes out. I put so many hours into it. I went to the UK for my like international trip this year. I was flying back, booted up Balatro, like couple minutes into the flight, 30 minutes of the flight. Next thing I know, I'm back in Seattle. What the heck? How did time go by so fast? I've been playing this game for hours. What's going on?
Just played that's like an 8-hour flight.
I'm telling you, man. I just played it the other day too, and today. Like I just can't stop playing this game. I've been playing it all year. The gameplay loop is just so addictive and simple. It's not like It's not like an Animal Well where they're, throwing things on its head the entire time. Basically, what you see is what you get from the first, run you play. But I mean, it's the combinations that make it so interesting. I mean, my last run, I was like, wait a second, I can put this card next to this card, and then I get double effects. Like, whoa, this changes everything. And I won, and it was fantastic. I mean, I don't know, man. This is just a wild game for one person to create and just have such a, addictive gameplay loop in it. Like it's so simple. It's kind of like, why didn't I think of that type situation? But it's near perfect in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the staying power of it too. Like it came out in February and we're still talking about it with just as much reverence, and it
Absolutely.
broke through at the Game Awards with a Game of the Year nominee. So I don't think we're the only ones that think this game has the secret sauce.
I mean, there are people who like they use the seeds, and they're like, if you re-roll in the shop at this specific level 12 times, you'll get this Joker wish then. And they're like, there are YouTube videos where people are so deep in the weeds. They're like, here's how you can get infinite chips when you play your hands. It's like, I broke the game. Like, I didn't. I'm not saying that, but there are videos out there, and it's just like people are so into it, and it is wild that one person made that, and it's just so layered and it's so addictive, and there's always more to do. And every time I'm like, I feel like I've played enough Balatro, I'm like, no, actually, I'm gonna go back and do that other challenge I didn't do yet, or the next stakes or whatever. It's
I think I've beaten it 9 times on 2 different consoles, and I still play it occasionally.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
I think I've beaten it like 25 times.
Oh my god,
that's insane.
Yeah,
we'll probably talk about it a little bit more later. But
I think it'll pop
I have
into
more
other categories. Yeah, I do too.
This, but yeah.
Are we in the 1 winner, 2 runner-ups vibes again?
Yeah, I think that's what we've historically done, and I like that, just to highlight a couple. I think just based on general enthusiasm and reading the room, it seems like Balatro is going to be winner, and so now we're narrowing down runners-up. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll do
we do
that.
Yellow for winner, right?
Yeah, let's do that. So, of these others, how are y'all feeling? I like Animal Well just as a unconventional gameplay loop. Like, I think it's a very strong, like, innovative gameplay loop. I could see the case for all of these. Yeah. I like Arco a lot. I like Mini Shoot a lot. I don't have, to be honest, I don't have an issue with any of these for whatever we're feeling.
I would say, like, I haven't played the full game of many of these, but I've played at least an extended demo of many of these. I would say, in the traditional sense at least, Children of the Sun and I Am Your Beast, I feel like, at least from what I've played, and I think I got a good feel of the loop, have both fantastic gameplay loops. I'm also, like, on the, what was the word you said? Unconventional pick. Animal Well makes sense as well, but those would be the other 2 I would toss out based off of like things that I've experienced.
Animal Well, I Am Your Beast. Animal Well, Children of the Sun.
Children of the Sun, I Am Your Beast.
Oh,
I don't know. How's everybody feeling? I'm down with any of those combinations.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I am too. Yeah, I'm good. Either way, I like Children of the Sun being on there. I think it's a great loop, and the replayability and it's the most stylish gameplay loop. Like, it's arguably like the coolest gameplay loop.
I'm offering up Animal Well to you guys if you want it on this list. You must choose.
I'll tell you right now, Animal Well, I got a lot more fight in me for Animal Well that I'm like, I feel like I could argue for it better in other positions.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Of like, I think it fits in other categories more.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily need to give it its flowers here.
Let me just color this and see how we feel about it in our little internal document we have here.
Let's do it.
How do we feel about Balatro winning and then Children of the Sun, I'm Your Beast as runners up?
Let's do it.
I think that's good. On an unrelated note, I'm going to do the screen share thing so I can record this here. list for the video viewers to follow along at home if you'd like to see what we're debating in our fun highlighted colors. Okay,
Perfect.
well, locking it in. So I think best gameplay loop, our overall winner goes to Balatro, with a runner-up honorable mentions to Children of the Sun and I Am Your Beast. Congratulations, everybody. Second category, here we go. Claire, do you want to read this one?
Sure. Most underrated game, we have Grun, Duck Detective, The Secret Salami,
Great subtitle.
Arco, Pacific Drive, Botany Manor, Children of the Sun, Let's Revolution, Rusty's Retirement, Crow Country, and Nine Souls.
Hell yeah. Joseph, why don't you kick us off? Right before this call, you were playing quite a bit of Nine Souls, and you've been checking out that one. Do you want to start us
during
with
a
that one?
fantasy draft, no less.
This is what I'll do. I have two on here. I'll quickly mention them and then pass the buck to others. But I have a secret third one that's not on here that I'll mention. So starting from top to bottom, Crow Country. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on other episodes. Fantastic game. I just think that it is such a compact experience. Like, it's only 7 hours, 8 hours, but it is such a great homage to like the Resident Evil type, Silent Hill type, like horror type games. I love the story in that game. I think it was fun all around. I highly recommend it for people who enjoy that genre, and even people who are interested in that genre. If you like the Resident Evil 2 remake or things of that ilk, try this out. I think this was a fantastic indie game that needs more love. Nine Souls, definitely, once again, more homage to like the Hollow Knight from Software. Like, hey, these bosses are tough. You need some like very precise parry mechanics. But then I also respect it for paying homage to like the whole Buddhism, Taoism type history and Chinese history. And there's like a lot of cool, neat story bits in there as well. Like you said, I've been playing it for a while, and now I just can't put it down now that I have the time to actually play it. I've been having an absolute blast with that one. And one last secret game. It's not necessarily like a small game, but I think it's underrated for our circle and people who play games. Well, we play games. And that's a little game called Frostpunk 2, everybody.
Ooh.
I'm not the biggest RTS person, but I heard a little buzz about this game when it came out a couple months ago. And I said, let me see what this game is talking about. And let me tell you, it's pretty fun. Having a little society in the middle of like a snow tundra that you're managing. You're building like these coal mines and these like food supplying facilities, and you're just trying to keep your society alive while also there's a city hall where you have to meet every couple of weeks to convene and vote on things. And it's such an interesting dynamic of like, okay, the typical resource management, but also, should we send the children to the mines? Well, we won't have enough fuel to get through the next winter if we don't send these children to the mines. We have to take it to a vote. And then you have different factions in your city that have different favor with you. And if the faction is not a fan of you, they're going to vote against your bill proposal. So then you have to negotiate with that faction and say, hey, I'll pass this other bill, or I'll build this other plant for you guys if you support this initiative we're trying to pass. So it's just like so many different intricacies. And it's a great way to like pass time when I'm not trying to like fight enemies or be super sweaty. Frostpunk 2 actually surprised me as not being the biggest RTS fan.
Nice. That's awesome.
Sounds like your Rusty's Retirement. I know Luke is big on that game this year. Yeah.
My Rusty's Retirement is sending kids to the coal mine.
The children yearn for the mines. So.
They do. Recently, I'll give you an example. I haven't actually gotten the coal mine one yet, but like one was like, oh, the kids are like, they're getting into gangs and beating up other kids. Like, we had to do something about this. So I had to pass a bill that all kids had to go to mandatory school. Like as a result to like cut down on kid crime, which is just such a I was like, what are we doing here? This is awesome. So shout out to Frostpunk 2.
Did you play the first one?
I did not.
Because I played a couple hours of the first one and I said, this is cool. Not my vibe, but like even the first one was pretty cool. And Frostpunk 2, correct me if I'm wrong, is also on Game Pass, right?
It is. That's how I've been playing it.
Nice. That's awesome.
Did
Yeah,
you play it on PC or console?
PC.
Sorry, Luke.
Yeah, no, you're good. That's what I want to check out at some point. I like the idea of there being stakes. Like I like a good city builder, like a management game, but the fact that you're like making hard and fast decisions with like real consequential impact, I think sounds really cool.
I think the biggest stake, just as one last thing, the biggest stake is that like you're in this like frost situation where the weather is cold, you need heat to survive. But every so often, there's going to be like a whiteout. And that's when the temperatures get extremely cold and nobody can go out and work or anything. So you need to basically have enough resources to survive these whiteouts and energy sources to survive these whiteouts. And that's kind of like the driving force behind this as you're like building your society up. So there's that kind of impending moment where everybody has to hunker down. You have to build up to that. And then you have to get ready to survive the next one. So that's kind of the core loop there.
Cool. That's awesome. I'll talk about Rusty's a little bit just because we hinted at that one. Equally engaging, perhaps, but on the very different end of the spectrum in terms of like stress level and like serious management. But a great little idle farming game. I've talked about it multiple times on the show, but you can resize the window that you play on. You can swap the screen between monitors, and it's just really delightful, really, really nice. And I think it does a lot of just clever quality of life things, and it's constantly fun to play. You can unlock different produce. You can get these biofuel robots that automatically sort your crops and all this stuff. And you can, by the time you're really late game, which I'm getting there because I've put like 25 hours into this thing, but the satisfaction of having an automated farm and then little Rusty's sitting on his bench just watching it all go down. It's like, this is great. This is delightful. And I feel like it's one that it got a little bit of buzz from folks that played it and it's highlighted in the IGAs, but it's one that I think transcends the idle game of like, if you like a cozy farming game, I think you should play Rusty's and not just for the idle aspect. Claire, do you want to chat about some of your selections for this one?
Sure. I can chat about Botany Manor. I think I'm the only one who played Botany Manor.
That was another one I demoed, but I haven't.
Yeah, also
demoing for a while. I don't think it hangs with some of the ones that have already been discussed, but I just wanted to shout it out because I didn't think
you never know.
It was pretty underrated. I felt like it didn't get a lot of buzz. But Botany Manor is a puzzle game where you are in this old medieval manor, but it's set in the Victorian era, and you are trying to get strange and mysterious plants that no one really knows about to bloom. And you are a botanist who is trying to research and put together a book of plants that have been lost to science. And it is a really beautiful low poly art style. The puzzles aren't too complicated, but they aren't so easy. It's a nice little sweet spot for that cozy game intersection of difficulty and reward, because when you solve the puzzles, the flowers bloom and they're really pretty and they have like effects on the environment, so it's very cozy, and I really like where the story goes as you uncover
it secretly
the notes
about the patriarchy?
Yeah, it is secretly about the patriarchy. So I really like
I
like how that gets developed through the like environmental storytelling and the notes that you find and the pictures and whatnot. The letters between various characters who are not at all present. You're the only person there.
Nice.
And then where it goes at the end. I think it just has a really beautiful. It's doing its own thing. It's not so intense. It's very chill, but it is also, I feel like, kind of quietly making its statement, I think.
Nice.
That's Whitethorn too, right?
Yeah.
Very solid. Jacob, do you want to chat about Grun and maybe Duck Detective?
Yeah. I'll start with Duck Detective. It is Golden Idol Junior. It is Golden Idol Light, where it is a 2 to 3 hour game that has some like really fun comedic writing, and the entire game is voice acted, where you play as the titular Duck Detective who has to go into an office and figure out who stole a salami. I will call out again, the voice acting is fantastic. Not only from the duck, but also some of the side characters. One, for example, is voiced by Brian David Gilbert, and didn't even realize it was him until after the game rolled credits. I really enjoyed it. It didn't overstay its welcome. If I got a duck detective game, I played it with my partner. If I got one of those every year that was 2 to 3 hours, I would be very happy.
Love it.
Nice.
And then Grun is, man, how to describe Grun? It is like a, first person time loop exploration game with multiple endings where it's, a little creepy, a little spooky, got a fun mystery that you have to figure out. And, it's one that you could probably finish your first ending in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, but it will take you multiple hours to really unravel the mystery that's happening in the game. I forget. Did anyone else here play Grun?
No, this was
Just a demo
on my short list. Yeah, I want to. It's one that I know you and friend of the show Mike Towndrow have been singing praises, and it seems like one that's been like catching people off guard here at the end of the year, which is cool.
Yeah, it's not one of those ones that I'm like, man, go out, you need to play Grun, but for a specific subset of our friends and folks who like games off the beaten track that are a little bit weird and strange. It's from Sock Pop, who just continue to make weird shit. If you like Majora's Mask, weirdly enough, I think this is kind of like the closest indie game analog to Majora's Mask.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I'll shout out a couple on here that I added. I believe I added Arco. I know, Jacob, you also played it, but what a fucking video game. It's so good. The story is incredible. I think it does wonderful things for cultural representation and social commentary on colonialism and issues surrounding it. The music is dope. I love the pixel art style, the perspective. I think it's really cool that you're like a little guy, big world. It adds to the entire vibe of the game. It's one that I think everyone that has played it really loves it, but I don't think that many folks got to it. And it was just kind of all quiet until towards the end of the year where I thought it started to pick up some traction. But this is one that it's like highly recommend, must play. Adored Arco. Just
was
so
it
much.
Wout during the Game Awards that for Local Thunk called out Arco specifically?
I believe so, because there was that interview Local Thunk did. It wasn't like a face-to-face interview. It was like a text interview that I think it was Games Radar put out where he shouted out it specifically. But yeah, that was one that I played going into Indie Game Awards voting prep. And I played the first hour and I was like, oh shit, this is like legitimately excellent. And at the time I didn't think anybody was really talking about it. So continuing down the list a little bit, Pacific Drive. Claire, you've been playing a ton of Pacific Drive recently, and then I played a ton at launch. This is one that I really adored, and I would love more people to play it. I don't necessarily know if it hangs on this list because I feel like it was out there. You know what I mean? Major outlets did cover it. It was talked about, but it is one that I think it wasn't presented in the way that I think like is the coolest part of the game, which is like the weird survival, goofy, interesting just antics you get into out in the zones.
I feel like I was surprised by a lot of the mechanics in Pacific Drive, and I think I was the one who put this on here because you were like, I think it got its flowers when it came out, and I was like, I don't think that I have been hearing enough about the parts of this game that I absolutely love. And that is like the crafting and the I love games where you forge and craft. Sorry.
And don't need to apologize.
And I guess wasn't expecting that to be as much of a central part of this game. But then also, the exploration and the scanning and logbook and discovery. Like, I love scanning stuff.
There's really good systems a lot of that feed into each other.
And then there's like little quirky stuff, like figuring out the weird shit that's happening with your car and like diagnosing random stuff. Like, I recently discovered that mechanic, and I was like, this is weird and cool. And I just feel like there are a lot of little weird, tiny little things in that game that need to be shouted out more because it's really cool.
And I think it's a game that's going to influence a lot of folks, and it's doing really interesting things.
Yeah.
So I think from a gameplay design perspective,
just
I
like
don't
the
necessarily think it's getting its flowers.
Premise and the world that they built is really interesting. Yeah. I'm gonna be going deep into this game.
For sure.
There's not another game I can think of that is like Pacific Drive.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's very fair. I think Let's Revolution is the only one left on this list that we haven't touched on. Jacob, I know
and
you
it's
and
a
I
weird
played
one
this
because it came out in PC, and it's one that we discussed in our Discord of like, should we even include it? Because it came out on PC in 2023, but I really think it didn't catch its wind, at least in our circles, until 2024 when it came out on console. I think it's one that more people should be talking about. It's like a Minesweeper roguelite, and it's super, super rad. The art style is great. The ambient music is fun. I'm just really excited because it was the first game from the team that put that together. I believe because we interviewed them and talked to them at PAX, God, maybe 18 months ago now. No, not that long. I think East last year. And they had said, like, this is the first game that we do. We're typically a movie SFX animation studio, and so if this is your first game, you're taking a swing, like I can't wait to see what's next. I don't think it needs to win here, but I did want to give it its flowers, given it launched in 2023.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought the art style specifically was like really impressive, so worth a shout for sure. Okay, how are we feeling? What are the strong contenders? I'd throw my hand up for Arco somewhere in there for a winner or runner up. I feel very passionately that more people need to play that game because it has the sauce.
If I had to pick one, I think it would be Arco.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that was easy. I thought I would have to say more things. Okay. Well, I'm not going to argue with that. Joseph, are you good with Arco taking this category?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
How we feeling for runners up?
I mean, I got what I wanted, so you guys.
That's kind of how I feel too. Claire, I think you made a good case for Pacific Drive, potentially.
I don't know. I feel like I wanted to shout out Pacific Drive and Botany Manor, but I don't necessarily. I don't think Botany Manor hangs with these other games, and I think Pacific Drive did get a fair bit of coverage. So I'm not sure if it hangs on the underrated part.
It doesn't, and I know I'm the one who said that. I don't necessarily think it has to be about like coverage. It could just be like, is this regarded as a game of the year by significant folks? Is this being highlighted looking back at 2024 in the way that you feel is just, if that's
in my mind, it's like the delta between how good the game is and how many people talked about it, buzzed about it, recommended it, etc.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also liked the case you made for your trio of titles, Joseph, with Crow Country, Nine Souls, Frostpunk.
Out of my three, I'd probably say...
What are you putting forward as tribute?
Honestly, it's kind of hard between Crow Country and Nine Souls. I would say, looking at Nine Souls, like the product overall, I think I don't know if I've heard really almost anybody talk about Nine Souls outside of you, Luke. So I would probably put that one, but I mean, Crow Country I also really love, so I don't know.
I think either could hang.
Yeah.
I played Nine Souls. I think you played significantly more than I have at this point, but yeah, I thought the combat was awesome. Loved the art style, the vibe, really cool and interesting. So I'm cool with that one.
Pacific Drive and a Nine Souls.
I also could see a Grun or a Duck Detective. Like any of these are fair game. I'll lean on y'all though for the passion, how you're feeling.
My next one will probably be Duck Detective.
Okay. Claire, how are you?
I'm not gonna fight for Pacific Drive. I think Nine Souls and Duck Detective are good
That's
runners.
the read of the room.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that. Lock that in. So our overall winners for most underrated game, winner goes to Arco, with runners up Duck Detective, The Secret Salami, and Nine Souls.
Nice.
Very nice.
There are no claws today at all. Zero claws.
The one thing that's kind of funny about this is I feel like since we started doing the cumulative top 10, it kind of just mellows it all out in a nice way. That's just like, let's just celebrate some stuff, and what wins will win to some extent.
Yeah. Also this year, like the games, I don't feel like there are that many games that fall into these categories that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna die for this game.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty happy with a lot of the games on the list, so it's hard to like down on the hill.
There's no games either that I'm like, I hated that. Like, no,
Right.
not a chance in hell,
I feel like I had a lot of games this year where I was like, I like this, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm not like gonna go to bat for it, except for the ones that also everybody else likes.
Sure.
Like I
Sure.
would
There's
die
more
on the hill of
consensus.
Balatro or Animal Well or Astrobot later on, but I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's arguing against those ones.
That's fair. All right, let's get wild. Let's get weird. Jacob, take it away with our next category.
Well, y'all, it's time. The show is mostly positive, and here's the not positive part of the show. This is Business Boys 2024 Bit of Bad Business. Let me run through the nominees. I'm so sorry. We'll start with Microsoft Xbox. Then This Is an Xbox Campaign. Ubisoft. I'll just kind of go over them quickly, and then we'll talk about them in detail. Helldivers 2 PSN Thing. Take-Two closing Intercept and Roll 7. Sony with Concord and Bungie. Other job cuts industry-wide. Nintendo patent enforcement for Pal World. Epic $72 million advertising to kids lawsuit. Embracer. Gamergate is back. SAG is still on strike. PS5 Pro. Dr. Disrespect. itch.io taken down by Funko. And Annapurna dies.
I have a couple out here that stand out to me.
Okay.
Sure.
There's a lot on this list, so I don't know.
There's
if
a
we
lot
need
of
to dive into
bad.
every single one.
Yeah.
Hey, it was a bad year in the games industry for the people that make
All
games.
of these things are not good. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like, I guess when we're talking about bad business, for the people that are doing the business, self-sabotaging themselves in a way, I mean, we privately talk about Ubisoft on a daily basis of like literally what
I
we
wish you
don't
were
understand.
exaggerating, but you're not. Like,
Like
it's...
we just don't understand, which is just kind of like, is it even a 2024 thing at this point, or is it like the last 5 years, maybe plus type thing? I don't know. The other one that stands out to me is just like Concord. Like, how did that happen? How did the game shut down a week after it launched? Like, that's just looking from Sony, from Ubisoft. Sure, I could be like, yeah, that's just where we are right now. From PlayStation, we're shutting down one of the most expensive games of all time and then closing down the studio after a week of gameplay. That just from the bad business sense, baffling how we got to that level. Obviously, all this other stuff is crazy. PS5 Pro, I'm coming around on. I'm like, compared to everything else on this list, maybe not as bad, maybe not nearly as bad.
Yeah.
So.
It's one of those things. There's like tiers to this. So there's like bad business that lost a lot of money, bad business that was just awful for all parties involved and everyone that had to witness it, and then bad business in terms of like, yeah, that wasn't a good idea at all. That just wasn't smart at all.
Yeah, our winner last year was gaming layoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ended up giving a bunch of runners up to Unity, eShop shutdown, FTC leak, charity shenanigans, Embracer. So I don't think Embracer, guys, keep me honest here. Was this the year Embracer broke up into 3 separate businesses where they essentially saddled all the debt with Asmodee, who makes board games?
I don't know if that was
I
this
couldn't
year,
tell
or was
you if
that
that was this year or
previous
earlier.
year?
I have a couple clarifying questions with some of these.
Yes, please.
With the first one, Microsoft Xbox, are we specifically talking about the mass layoffs?
Yes,
And
that's what
just
we're
kind of
talking about.
business
Studio
model
closures
as a whole,
and impact
studio
on the brand.
closures? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
because I don't know about
then-
you guys, but I put that one first because I think, and maybe this is because we live and breathe this stuff, but I think as a fan of the brand, someone who has purchased Xboxes for the better part of 20 years, this has done irreparable damage to the brand, in my opinion. At least to me.
No, that's fair. That's very fair. And then other one for other job cuts industry-wide, that's just any non-Xbox major job cut we're lumping in that one.
Yes.
And I guess the ones above it. So
Yeah.
non-tech Take-Two and
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. That's fine, but yeah.
Yeah, all good. I think I'm just trying to define some of what we're discussing.
Because I think there was 15 to 16,000 layoffs total last year, with some of the ones that we have drawn up as the biggest ones. But
sure.
we in January of 2024, Activision let go of 1,900 people for redundancies. So I don't know.
I think
maybe
2024 was higher than
It is.
2023. Actually,
Yeah, it was. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
now we're in 2025. Duh. And then last clarifying, Annapurna dies. We're referring to marketing team.
Yeah.
Mass exodus.
That was weird.
Voluntary.
That was so weird.
Well,
who are now going
in quotes
to private division, correct?
Yeah, there's
really?
a whole another can of worms with that one. But I guess like for the sake of discussion, Annapurna Games still happening. Marketing team not involved directly. There's it's a gray area, but okay. So I think that those were the only ones I had questions about. Yeah, these are all bad.
Can I talk about some quick hits really fast?
Yeah, please jump in there, and then I'll rant about.
I think it's wild that Epic got a huge lawsuit for the way that they market and have children use microtransactions in game like Fortnite, and we didn't really talk about it. It's just it gets lost in all of the other news happening. SAG is still on strike for voice actors, which is wild, which is I think why you aren't seeing a lot of US based voice actors promoting their work in the same way that they do. Just why a lot of the UK ones, because I think they're in a different union. I don't fully know, but I believe that's the case. And then this Nintendo enforcing the patent on throwing an object to capture things, I think is going to be a big story in 2025. So maybe we wait and see what the impact is. Maybe it's that, Nintendo's going to defend their patents or anything that looks like any of their properties in court from now on, and that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we wait and see how that one pans out. You were going to ask about Concord, Luke.
Not ask, just a quick rant of just like, what are we doing? The amount of money, the amount of time and effort. I didn't get a chance to play the alphas and betas and full release, but there were people that liked aspects of the game. Mm-hmm. And so just the way everything went, the studio closures, I assumed it would go free to play eventually, but that doesn't seem like it's even a possible thing with the studio closures. Jacob is holding up an unopened copy of it, which is insane.
Collector's item.
That's even out
collector's
there.
Item.
That's one to me that like when I look back at 2024, I think we will forever remember Concord for better or for worse. And I think it is kind of representative of like chasing industry trends, mass layoffs, it's like all encompassing of a lot of these issues we're talking about. So I could see the case being made for that one. Also, I think I'm the person who played the most Helldivers this year. I'll shout out the Helldivers 2 one. It's real dumb, but I don't know if it hangs. It was dumb at the time. They addressed it, and then since not as much of a thing.
Yeah,
like I would say that
a weird proposition after the fact.
Sure.
What if we just put all of Sony stuff together? Because there's also the Bungie, like they ship this wonderful final shape, to send off.
Shoot, I'm sorry. Yeah, you had that in the same one too.
Yeah. So, okay. But we could also take Helldivers and put like essentially Sony online games,
Sony fumbles.
as one bucket.
Yeah, I think that seems fair.
Because the PSN thing was them trying to force PSN login after the fact. Community goes crazy. Developers don't really fall in line, and it just you break a game that has arguably the best community in 2024.
Yeah, I think the only reason I was like, it doesn't hang for me is just because that did happen, but I do think the goodwill is kind of back more or less with the updates and continuous support to some extent.
Best community
at the Game Awards. Take that with a grain of salt, but
no, I kind of agree with you there. I feel like they kind of saved it after the fact. So
we have the This Is an Xbox campaign in here. I just
so dumb.
struggle with it because if y'all saw it, it was that campaign that's trying to be like, hey, your phone's an Xbox, your PC's an Xbox, and then they would show things that are like, it's a watermelon, this is not an Xbox, to essentially show how ubiquitous it is. And to me, it was just like the execution of the campaign where I was just like, I understand what you were trying to do, but the execution of it, if somebody sees just a watermelon in isolation that says, this is not an Xbox, you go, what the heck is this campaign? But I don't think it hangs with some of the stuff.
I think it doesn't hang just on the basis that I could buy a t-shirt that says this is not an Xbox, and that's so dumb. If this was dumbest thing, I could see the argument.
There's so much other nefarious shit on this list.
Can I make suggestions of top 2?
Sure.
I think Xbox shuttering Tango Gameworks, Arcane Austin, and really, like, when you think about your favorite studios that got acquired, I think this year was the sentiment for Xbox, where it turned from just being reminded that acquisitions, because for a while I would even say I was a little rosy of being like, oh, they're gonna, like, you know, help our favorite studios do their best work, but competition is really the thing that is good for the market, not consolidation. And I think this was the time where I said, oh, this is actually bad for the industry. And the Xbox stuff in June or May, whenever it happened, it kind of reminded me of that. So in my mind, it's Xbox and Sony online games as maybe the 2. And then we can pick something else. Maybe it's Gamergate being back in some communities, just like with some of the games responses out there in the community, Wukong, Stellar Blade, Assassin's Creed, Shadows. You know, we be wilding on Twitter these days.
Yeah, I would say like the Gamergate stuff and Dr. Disrespect are ones for me where it's just like, I don't have anything to say other than it just like makes me hate humanity sometimes and want to never go on the internet. Just haters are, some people are just awful. And yeah, that's the bad business bit of that one.
So what I'll say is Gamergate and Dr. Disrespect, those are at least isolated to social media. If you get rid of Twitter, you're kind of free.
Shit, you did it.
The other ones are, you literally buy Concord or an Xbox, and then you're like, oh wait, this is not an Xbox or whatever. Like, these are like actually impacting your games on a direct level. I also hate Dr. Disrespect and Gamergate, but ever since I got rid of Twitter, I'm like, what are people arguing about? I don't even know, man. It's just like,
get rid of Twitter.
Damn, that's so smart.
Yeah,
you win.
Let's get rid of Twitter.
You won the category.
Yeah, I think that the Microsoft stuff really is like, that's the first thing I thought of when I thought of what are we going to talk about in this category, and it's like when all that was happening, it's like this is going to have huge ramifications forever, and it's just like the trend of these big companies using up developers and then throwing them away like trash as soon as they're done with them, and there's like the reality of like there are no protections for the people who actually do the work. And what does this mean for gaming long term? Either it's gonna be fixed or it's all gonna fall apart, and that's kind of how I feel.
Claire, don't worry, AI is gonna develop games for us. It's gonna be fine.
That falls under
They'll
the
enjoy
all fall
for us
apart
too,
umbrella for me. I feel like
no.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Luke.
No, you're good.
No, you got it.
I was just gonna say, it also just killed, like, I think we all used to have the, like, Papa Phil Spencer, he's gamer, he's one of us, he's coming out in the t-shirts, like, isn't this guy fun? And I'm not gonna pin everything that went wrong with Microsoft on him, because corporations, there's more at play than just what he wants to do. That said, his company made, I think, a lot of questionable decisions that hurt the brand, and just, it felt also representative of the domino effect of layoffs this year and the corporate sentiment of like megacorps don't care about you. They don't care about the games necessarily. They don't care about the quality, the artists making them. It just comes back to the bottom line. And even when the bottom line is good, that may or may not be enough.
But Luke, it could be better.
Everything could be better. We could all make more money. We could all play more games. We could all be happier, I guess. Yeah. But it's just like, at what point? When does the buck stop?
Here's my counterpoint, guys. I know, I agree everything you guys are saying. And my but is, obviously, Microsoft acquired whatever. That happened. I think the Tango Gameworks and all that stuff fall out from that acquisition. I think that happened. I don't think they made Hi-Fi Rush and were like, yeah, this is still not good enough. We're going to get rid of you. I think they already planned that. Whereas I just don't understand, specifically for the Concord thing, this studio was bought to make this game.
Firewalk.
People worked very hard to make this game, and they invested so much money from all aspects to make this game. And they gave the game a week to succeed. And then they shut it down and then fired everybody. I just don't I feel like I just don't understand how that happened in terms of I'm not excusing Microsoft, but you acquire a company and you're saying, okay, this doesn't fit in our portfolio. You're doing the typical business thing of like, okay, we have to sell this off or nobody wants to buy it, whatever. To buy a studio and then develop this thing and then give it a week to exist and be like, actually, yeah, we just lost the most money we've ever lost on a title, and then fire everybody. It's like from start to beginning, I don't really see the vision of what they were. I mean, and I guess it is the same thing of like, we acquired you 5 years ago or like right at COVID, and then, you know, everything changed. But still, I just don't see what, like, how does a plan come down to like a week of a game's existence and then all these people are fired and not given a second chance? I just don't understand it. All the other things though, the Sony, Helldivers and I guess to Bungie to some extent aren't as anomalous as the Concord thing, but the Concord thing to me is just so confusing that I don't understand it. But I think Xbox as a whole has stepped on way more rakes.
Yeah, I think that's all
so
fair.
I don't know.
The only thing I'll throw out in the Concord edition is just, it's a games as a service game. You're planning this like multi-year thing and you're developing these studios and you're investing all this money. To your point, Joseph, it's like you give it a week. Like vanilla Destiny 1 was not what it is today after a week.
In a week.
And
Yeah.
it's like, who
Anthem
knows?
got a second chance.
Anthem got a second chance. Like, I think games that
and
were
like-
in a worse place in terms of public perception came back in a big way. No Man's Sky, very different genre, but like
Fortnite.
Talk about games that like started at not zero, but just like negative reception to the nth degree and then became something celebrated. Who knows?
And in my head, I think, at least from my perspective, I'm like, if you're Sony, it's like, oh, well, you know, these things happen. Like the game didn't succeed. But when I think of Sony and their prestigious catalog of studios, I think, oh, okay, well, they'll just get back on the saddle and try something different. But I mean, it turned out, oh, like this was their thing. This was the only, like, this was everything. It all hinged on this, which is very odd to me. Anyways, it's all bad. Everything's bad.
Like
if we're in 2025
if Concord cost, let's say, and there were tons of numbers thrown out there, $200 to $400 million to make. What really would it cost for them to take 6 more months and really give it another shot? Like another 10 to 20% of that? Like you're already in for hundreds of $1 million. What's another? And I know that the executives will probably argue that, you know, but then our focus is split between things that may not succeed and then our next generation of things that we know will succeed. But I don't know. It's the whole thing is I think a bit of bad business.
But I mean, like we had Last of Us 2 multiplayer and they said, oh yeah, we made it. I mean, obviously they didn't release it, but they say, doesn't work. They scrapped it and they, you know, focused on other things. I'm kind of confused why we couldn't do that with Concord. Maybe because they just didn't have faith that the next thing would pan out, or they didn't have a next thing because they were expecting this to be the future. Just weird and bizarre and odd.
Can I bring up one more thing, and then I think maybe from there we take a vote on what we think the biggest bits of bad business are?
Sure.
Ubisoft launched an NFT game in October of 2024. They launched a full ass called Champions Tactics. It has 100,000 followers on Twitter. Oops, on Twitter. and we continue to question what that company's long-term strategy is. I mean, they delayed, and this is 2025 news, but they delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows another month and are exploring strategic options for the business going forward, which probably means like, hey, we're either going to get acquired or divest some part of our business to survive. But yeah, Ubisoft, we've called out for years that we just question what the strategy is, and I think now this thing's finally coming to a head. But frankly, I keep going, is this the year we put that here, or is it next year that we really look at what's happening?
I will say that this year I felt like Ubisoft made almost every single wrong decision they possibly could. Like, I would actually because they were a part of the Star Wars launch as well, right? So I mean, I felt like the Star Wars launch just was not handled well. I felt like Assassin's Creed Shadows, like delaying that out of 2024 was weird, and I know they're trying to get it right, but also that's not a great look. The NFT game, I just feel like Ubisoft.
Did Skull and Bones come out in 2024?
It did.
Yes.
It did. Like, out of all the companies here and things on this list, like, I can look at Ubisoft and say, I literally have no faith in you as a company. Like, there's nothing you're doing that gives me hope about anything except maybe like a sliver of hope for Assassin's Creed Shadows. But even that, like, I'm like, truly, if we're talking about bad business, I know we just had a long rant about these other two, but Ubisoft is like absolutely terrible business. I would never buy that stock in a million years. Like, what are we doing over there?
Also, we haven't even touched on Prince of Persia within the Ubisoft lens.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
one of the
Actually,
best
right.
games
I
of the
forgot about
year, and then shut down the studio.
Oh, I
Like,
forgot about
they've
that.
been
Jesus
waiting for a
Christ.
good game for many years. It's excellent. It's so fucking good. And you shut down the studio. Like, that infuriated me beyond... Hey, it's up there. It's up there.
All right, I'm changing my vote. I'm changing my vote from Sony to Ubisoft.
And the game didn't sell that. Like, it didn't. It sold 1 million copies. That's not nothing.
Yeah.
It's a 2D Metroid. What did you expect it to do? Like, that's good numbers for that game. Sorry, I'm very hot.
Xbox, Ubisoft, Sony Online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 3-way tie for last place. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
My vote.
This category
PS5
is
Pro.
not an Xbox. Yeah.
In the category where everyone loses.
It's funny
This
when we're
category is
ranting
not
about
an
this.
Xbox.
PS5 Pro, not that bad in terms of everything else. It's like, not good, but not.
Hey, it's $1,000. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess the winners for the 2024 Business Boys Bit of Bad Business, Microsoft Xbox, Sony Online Games, and Ubisoft.
All right.
Yeah.
There's that. Let's move into something that'll lift our spirits, everybody. We're bringing it back with the Luke Lewis Chill Out with a Coffee on a Rainy Weekend Afternoon game. Your nominees are as follows.
You forgot the TM.
TM, sorry. Trademark. No one take this. This is our category. Our nominees are Kind Words 2, Rusty's Retirement, Thank Goodness You're Here, Please Touch the Artwork 2, Little Kitty Big City, Animal Well, Tiny Glade, Ite, and Phoenix Springs. Jacob McCourt.
So since this is the first year that we're doing the category, I'd love to know from you, Luke Lewis, really what you look for in a chill out with a coffee on a rainy weekend afternoon game.
For sure. So this category was actually proposed by you because the phrase chill out with a coffee on a rainy weekend afternoon, I think is a phrase I use often when describing games that I enjoy. So for me, it falls into nice bite-sized experience that I can maybe beat in the course of like 2 to 3 sittings max. It can be a cozy game, but I don't think it's strictly a cozy game. And I think it's something that falls more into the relaxing, engaging realm than something super intense. So for me, it's the game that I play to relax, to kick off a weekend, to unwind, to not think about stuff and just kind of tune out the world a little bit. What's going to just put me in a nice, positive headspace. And I usually have a nice hot beverage accompanied with this experience. So I think that's my elevator pitch for the category. So we got some bangers here. I can touch on a couple that I've played. I've talked about Rusty's delightful You can play it while doing all kinds of other stuff, which is nice for the sake of this category. Kind Words 2, also delightful. Lifts my spirits every time you play it. They've expanded on the first game. You can get like movie and book recommendations on top of just spreading good vibes and advice and support for everybody in the community, and they do a nice job of just making that like the most welcoming, nice place to be on the internet. And then I'll shout out Please Touch the Artwork 2 is a hidden object game where you're going through really wonderful oil painting set to chill classical music, finding objects and solving puzzles, and you can beat it in under an hour and a half, and it's a nice, pleasant time, and it's free. What more could you want? So those are ones I'll shout out. Claire, I know you played a couple of these as well. Do you want to chat about Little Kitty and Tiny Glade?
Yeah, I also put Animal Well on here because I didn't know the bite size bit.
It doesn't have to be, so it can.
I will remove that.
Maybe it's 12 sittings. That's fine. It's not.
I was just like, yeah, I like a game that's kind of long to sit down and just I'll just do a little bit, and then
I think you can do short sessions of Animal Well and have it be satisfying.
So yeah, Little Kitty Big City it definitely hits on the just chill out and vibe notes. I don't think we've talked about this one yet today.
I don't think so. No.
So you play as a cat and you are on the streets in this Japanese inspired block, and you are trying to get back up to your like 10th story apartment window. So you have to interact with all of the other cute little animal characters and complete side quests and like level up your strength to be able to climb and jump your way back up to your window. It's not super long. There are collectible hats and gacha machines. There is a tanuki who has like unlocked quantum physics in a way that humans haven't yet become advanced enough to do, so that's pretty cool. And it just is very charming and delightful.
Love it.
And then Tiny Glade is like the most chill ever. Sandbox is not even a city builder. You are just building castles. There aren't really any objectives. There are no enemies or attacks. You can choose what season it is, and then you're just designing castles and villages and buildings and bridges and whatever. And it is the epitome of chill out with the hot beverage on a rainy afternoon, I think.
Luca, Claire, I got this one for from a Secret Santa that Luke and I were in, and I'm very excited to play it.
Oh, it's fun. It's very relaxing.
It's just
there
nice.
Are zero stakes.
Yeah.
There are zero stakes. You can just... I played this during the lead up to and lead out of the U.S. presidential election, and it was exactly what I needed at that time because I could just turn my brain off and not think about anything else that was going on in the world, and that was what that did. So hey, now's a great time to get back into it.
Yeah. Awesome. Jacob, you have a couple on this list.
Yeah, we've talked about it, but I'd love to talk about Phoenix Springs. This is one that I added on. It's a point-and-click adventure game where you're collecting a database of words. I think we'll talk about this a little bit later in the best visuals art direction, because I think this is the most beautiful game that I have played. It's almost like old school DC Superman comics that are like blown, a lot of yellows, a lot of blacks, a lot of light greens. And it leaves you, when you play it, it's maybe like 3-4 hours, so it qualifies as the weekend afternoon thing, but it definitely leaves you with more questions than answers. So if that's not your vibe, like you'll be putting string on the wall and going on subreddits and figuring out what people have some figured out about the game. I think it deserves its flowers. It'll probably get it in art direction, but I did want to call it out here too. It's not really chill. It's more like is going to make you go, huh?
Yeah, I think this is kind of like we made up this category. It's a broad category. It's more vibes than constraints.
And we didn't talk about Thank Goodness You're Here yet either, right?
Mm-mm.
This is the first time we're talking about this video game on this podcast, eh? I think most of us played it. It's so cool. It's a great
awesome.
thing. I've almost come to appreciate it more having had some distance from it, but northern British humor. It's like a Monty Python game, beautifully animated. Sometimes you question like, wait, how is this a video game? This should be on Adult Swim, not here. You just slap stuff, and that's funny as hell.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of the funniest games I've ever played.
So
and
funny.
it's just like the timing of comedy in a video game. I think they do masterfully in terms of things that you like see early on that slowly build over time. The payoff to a long running joke in this game is just chef's kiss.
So good.
Art style vibes. I feel like this game is like very representative of this category of just like what an awesome afternoon that game was. It was the perfect length. It was just the perfect all-encompassing experience for me.
Luke, do you want to maybe be the first one to make some calls here, given it has your name in it?
Sure. Selfishly, I would throw in, I think for me, the top 3 would probably be like the big conversation for me. So Kind Words 2, Rusty's Retirement, and Thank Goodness You're Here. Those were all ones that like I was very excited to play. I really enjoyed my time with, and I've continued. I haven't gone back to Thank Goodness You're Here just because that's not that type of game. It's kind of a one and done situation. But for Kind Words 2 and Rusty's, like I continually go back to them, and like they're continually like my fresh cup of coffee. I'm checking in with these games. So I'd make the strong case for those, I think. And then I'm open to the room.
What are we thinking?
I mean, go ahead. You first, Claire.
Oh, I was just gonna second Thank Goodness You're Here. Because it's great. I think it is my favorite game on this list. And then I would also, I guess, if I'm the only one who's played Tiny Blade, it's probably not going to hang out. But I think it does. It fits in this category very well.
I've played it. I think it's really great. It's not my type of game. You know what I mean? Like I like the other nominees more, but I think it fits the category. It fits the vibe,
but there's no objective, so it doesn't grab.
That's where it loses me. But I mean, that's the structure of the game. I'm not going to fault it for doing the thing it's trying to do.
Yeah.
So I feel like Thank Goodness You're Here, overall winner. I think we all feel positive about that one. Now we're just talking about runners up. What were you going to say, Jacob?
I was going to say, like, I think of games like A Short Hike as kind of the vibe, as like the target game. And so from my perspective, that's why I maybe went to like something like a Little Kitty, only because the vibes are very similar, and it's only a couple hours in length, and it's not that difficult, self-contained, where like Rusty's and Kind Words are more open-ended. So that was how I kind of judged it.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
How about, may I propose for the group Little Kitty Big City, Rusty's as a runner-up?
You adored that thing.
Like I said, I put 25 hours into an idle farming game, which based on my top 10 list the last few years, that's not something I ever would have like predicted or bet money on. But
Luke, is it on your top 10 of the year?
I think it's my number 11. It almost slid in there, but this was a tough year for me. I was like, it felt like picking favorite children.
You played a ton of really good games.
Yeah, it was tough, but it was definitely in the conversation. It's in my top 12 if you tack on an extra couple.
Let me see how that feels. How does that feel, Luke?
I like it.
Okay.
And I just because it has my name on it doesn't mean I have to be the deciding factor, but these do feel appropriate.
I'm good with this list.
Okay, locking it in. The Luke Lewis chill out with a coffee on a rainy weekend afternoon game trademark goes to Thank Goodness You're Here, with runners up Rusty's Retirement and Little Kitty Big City. Love it. All right, Joseph, we're kicking it to you for the next category.
All right, everybody. You know your boy loves puzzles, which is why we have Hooper's Puzzle Paradise Award here. We got a couple games here. Most of the games we already talked about. Animal Well, I'm just going to show my hand here. We're talking about puzzles, figuring things out, discovering stuff. I mean, come on. Like, literally nothing nothing touches Animal Well in terms of like the time I spent just looking at the map, being like, yo, where could this next egg be? Like, yo, how do I get this dang disc to this location on the map? It's just like it really stretches your brain, and then when you figure it out, you're like, oh man, that feels so good. This is amazing. And it's like very unique puzzles like you've never seen in any other game before. So shout out to Animal Well. Crow Country, standard like Resident Evil style. I need this item over here, but how do I do that? This or the other. Fantastic. Do it very well for creating all its own unique puzzles. Shout out Crow Country. And I'll let Claire talk about Paper Trail puzzles. I mean, I guess we kind of already talked about like the difficulty scaling and the hint system and everything. And then Let's Revolution. Jacob, do you have any comments about like?
Is it really puzzly? It's more like, Minesweeper's kind of a puzzle, but I think
Right.
the gameplay loop in it's kind of cool of trying to figure out your way through to the end of a stage with Minesweeper as the core mechanic. Cool.
Okay. And then there's actually 2 games that we have not talked about yet. One is, I only have one listed on this document here, but Rise of the Golden Idol, obviously sequel to Case of the Golden Idol. More of the same in terms of like, if you played the first one, you know what you're getting with the second one, except more unique styles of puzzles in terms of like how they kind of twist things on their head for putting the whole story together. I will say there were a couple puzzles in this game where I'm like, all right, well, okay, like I guess we could make that conclude. I guess we could do, like, it was kind of like not as fair as I probably would have wanted it to be, and that might have been like 1 or 2 puzzles where I'm like, that's kind of a stretch in terms of making me assume that type of thing. But for the most part, fantastic, highly recommend as always. The final one, which I'm surprised Jacob didn't put on here, Lorelei and the Laser
I was
Eyes.
gonna
Oh,
ask.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't finish this one, so my thoughts on it are, I think it's fantastic, but I still have to put more time into it and finish it to really feel how the full experience was. But these are some hard puzzles. These are like some classic, like, oh, wait a second, let me get my pen and paper, let me talk through this. And it's like different categories, like some are math, some are pattern based. It is definitely different from other video game puzzle genres. And there's definitely some challenge there. And I know Jacob put a lot of time into it with the strings on the board and everything. So.
Yeah, I put 23 hours into it, and I played it with my partner and her twin brother, and the 3 of us just notebook, sitting in front of the TV trying to figure it out together. And what was cool as a group is we kind of all had our different strengths in, some people were really good with shapes and with like spatial puzzles, and I'm really good with math puzzles. And so between us, we had this like beautiful machine that just could figure out puzzles. I think apart from one section in the game being kind of shitty, this game is really fantastic. It's one of my favorite of the year, and it makes me want to go back and play some of Samogo's old games, because I love the music one from Queen Latifah from about 5 years ago. Why can't I remember the name of this game? I'll find it in my head.
They're not the Sayonara Wild Hearts
It's
team, right?
Sayonara Wild Hearts.
It is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Queen Latifah's in that game?
Queen Latifah is the voice of the narrator.
Device
in that
6
game.
is their other one, right?
Device
I did not
6.
know that.
Okay.
And then Yearwalk is one of the first iPhone games that I really loved. Like when the App Store was starting up, that's when they kind of made their first thing. It's such a sick game, and the puzzle design is mostly fantastic. And the story lands too, and we'll talk about that later, I guess.
Hell yeah. I feel like I'll lean mostly on y'all, because Golden Idol's been on my list this year, Lorelei's been on my list this year, Crow Country, those are 3 that I haven't had a chance to get to yet, but I have my Steam library from some fun Secret Santa gifts recently. I think my vote would go to Animal Well with a bullet, but that's also just because I think I haven't played some of the other noms. But
yeah, I mean, I would put Animal Well far and away from most of the other games on this list as the winner. So unless anybody has some objections, we can lock that one in. My suggestions for runner-up, potentially, I was thinking about Rise and Lorelei, but honestly, personally, and I'm fine to talk through it, I might put Crow Country over Rise. and do Crow Country and Lorelei, because I just feel like those Resident Evil style puzzles, even though it's like a classic puzzle type, I don't think we see it that much in modern gaming. And I also think that this game did them really well in terms of like reading these. You read hints in journals about like, oh yeah, this thing is broken, so I left this thing over here to fix it. And just the way that they lay out all the hints, I thought was really, really clever, especially for an indie game. Rise, is still more of the case. So like I would opt for like the new as opposed to the sequel, but that's just my opinion.
I trust your take on that one. So whatever you feel you want to give the nod to.
Yeah, I'm a big Lorelei guy, so I mean, if Lorelei is on there, I think I can. I'd be very
I think
happy.
Lorelei would be, yeah. Lorelei would probably be my number 2 overall.
And then what's the third is kind of up to you guys.
Yeah, let's do Lorelei and Crow.
Okay, love it.
Nice.
Lock it in.
Everybody, somebody play Crow Country, man. I just want to talk to one single person about it.
I bought that one in the Steam sale too. I have it.
New homework.
I always think of you and your recommendation of Death's Door and how you were so
There you
right
go.
about that game. You're probably going to be real right about this one, because doesn't that game have a
There
Crow
you go.
too?
It does.
Yeah,
It
it
does.
plays a little-
Crow-based games. Let me tell you, crow-based games would be cooking.
Name another Crow-based game. Just Crow thing.
Oh shit, you did it.
Oh, there you go. There you go. You did that
I had
very
that one ready.
fast.
That
Wow.
wasn't fair.
Amazing. All right, Hooper's Puzzle Paradise Award goes to Animal Well with runners-up Crow Country and Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Claire, do you want to take us through our final category for the day?
All right. Can't believe we're already here. So the next is Claire's Creatively Cozy Award, which I envisioned as a game that is like cozy vibes, but also is doing something a little bit different, or maybe isn't like the traditional what you think of when you think of a cozy game. But it is still something that we all, or at least one of us, found cozy. But is also, innovating in some way. So we have Tiny Glade, which we've already talked about. Very cozy vibes, but not having objectives is, I think, what really sets us apart. I mean, just like the creativity and like experimenting with, because you're not given a very large palette of things you can build, but you have to figure out how to put them together to make different structures, which is cool. We have Minami Lane, which is kind of like a city builder, management sim, where you have a street and you are trying to accomplish various objectives, and you do it, you get a new street with no objectives, and they come from like pleasing the people, getting more people, having a high beauty score, making a certain amount of money from the shops. So that's very wholesome, more traditional, cozy game. Botany Manor, which we've already talked about, with the puzzles and the commentary on the man. Paper Trail innovates with the way the puzzles work. You're folding the screen. That was very interesting. Animal Well, we've talked about. I feel like the next few aren't like traditionally cozy, but I think that like when I think of curling up with a game on my Switch on a rainy day, Animal Well is that in spades. It is so fun to just play and to just get lost in, even if it maybe like in terms of the color palette or the gameplay isn't traditionally cozy. It's still I feel cozy when I play it.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, that doesn't sound like a cozy game.
Balatro, which once again maybe is not a traditionally a cozy game. You might not call it that, but it's more about how you feel when you play it. And it definitely is a creative gameplay loop. Thank Goodness You're Here. Same thing, not traditionally what you might call a cozy game, but just a delightful time. And then I feel like is a more traditional cozy game.
Yeah, I threw a Tay on there. I thought it was just like the combination of music and
yeah,
going to Montreal in the summertime. Just the paint is pretty cozy.
Yeah, and the mechanic is really interesting and creative too. So
I think the way you're like creating art that then decorates your space and you sell your art to then unlock stuff, like it's just the loop I think is also innovative in and of itself.
Right. I think that kind of encompasses the category.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good
Is
pick.
it the winner? Did we just decide that?
I'm trying to look through these. I think I
how
played
hard
all
do you
of
love
these
Tiny
to some
Glade?
extent. Yeah.
Or at least you both played it. Or no, was it just you, Claire, that played Tiny Glade?
You played a little
played
bit.
about an hour.
Yeah.
Give or take.
I mean, it's fun. I feel like it's not in the top 3.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the one thing I'll say is like in terms of like creativity being innovative within the genre, I do think the way you're terraforming levels and like
That's
quickly like taking nothing and making something incredibly detailed and elaborate if you know how to use the tool is very impressive. Like the way
maybe,
you
third
interact with
runner-up.
the world, I think
it's cool.
is innovative.
I think the lack of specific objectives kind of does take away the drive to keep going back to it for me, and probably and for you too, I know.
I kind of wish it had like not a Minecraft survival mode, but just something that was a little more goal oriented, where it's like, okay, today you're gonna
figure
in this
out
level
how to
build
do
a castle with these objects or something.
Yeah.
I would get a kick out of something like that. Not necessarily.
say-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say I don't play many cozy games, but I will say, oddly enough, Balatro is kind of that for me. Where, like, if I can't like mentally focus on a story, or I'm just not in the headspace to like make meaningful progress on a game, that, like I mentioned earlier, that's the one that I fall back onto and play and just kind of relax. I will agree with Claire that Animal Well, like once I had finished the game, Animal Well, and like started looking for the eggs, it was just a relaxing thing of just like searching each level. But equally, that game was stressful at points. Not very cozy for me as I was running from different threats like the dachshund. That was stretching for me. But yeah.
That is fair.
So it's not the game is cozy, it makes you feel cozy.
It makes you feel cozy.
I think that's fair.
Well, and I think what we define as cozy, I feel like that is such a fluid label. Because for me, I can think of what I don't feel like is a cozy game, and that is a first-person shooters.
Sure.
I mean, that's
for me,
that's
it's
very
like
true.
if
true.
if there aren't like if there's not death, if there's
If
not
you can
like
stand in
bloody,
one place
violent
and your
death-
character will be okay.
yeah. Which I guess you can die in Animal Well, but it's not gruesome, so
That's
Call
true.
of Duty torture, not cozy. Got it.
not cozy. No.
Right.
What would your like 3 or 4 be,
I feel
Claire? And
like-
then maybe we can help you like,
I'd
narrow
say-
it.
Animal Well or Balatro, maybe Tiny Glade. I don't know.
Let me just highlight these or bold these, if you will.
Guess I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I think of Thank Goodness You're Here, in the I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I can't remember if I'm the one who put that there. Yeah, I don't know. Also, Botany Manor, very cozy. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, those are my 4. Y'all figure it out. Put them in order. We get rid of one.
I don't necessarily need Tiny Glade to win, but I feel like it should be on there. Like, I think it's innovating within the genre of a cozy game
Yeah.
in an interesting way.
What some people have done with it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also.
I kind of feel that way with Ete, where I'm like, this is it fits the label really well of it
Yeah.
is creative because you are painting a city and it's also cozy as hell.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for Ete to win the category. Even though
Oh wow, I was
actually
gonna
played it,
have it
but-
be a
I was
backup.
Jacob was like, I'll
my
take it.
elevator pitch was going to be Balatro wins with runners up Ete and Tiny Glade.
I think that makes sense.
That's the vibe
yeah.
for me.
Is that the
Okay.
room?
Sure.
Animal can be
Congratulations.
cozy, but not inherently cozy.
It's,
So that
it's the only
feels-
game on this list where you can actually die.
Yeah, so that feels. I think that How do you feel? Your namesake category, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Claire's Creatively Cozy Award goes to Balatro, with runners-up Tiny Glade and Ite. And that brings us to a close for our day one of 2024 GOTY discussion. Next episode, we'll be discussing Best Indie Game, Best Music, Best Visuals Technical, Best Visuals Art Direction, Best Narrative, Best Moment, and unveiling our top 10 cumulative games of 2024. Thanks, everybody. This was a blast.
Yeah.
Any last words, any qualms with these selections so far? How are we doing?
I shouldn't have brought my knives today. I didn't even need them.
Everything
next
was...
time.
Some of these next categories are very long.
I'm kind of between best
indie
and best narrative, and maybe best moment. Those are like always the three that take quite a bit.
Also,
are we gonna have one 90-minute and one 3-hour episode?
You guys are gonna need your knives, because I do plan to nominate Elden Ring for every category as DLC.
Your two-handed great sword.
Get ready to fight me over and over again.
Love it. Amazing. All right, everybody. I think that brings us to a close. But before we finish out, I'm going to have 3 things for you to do. Please subscribe to our show on your podcast platform of choice. Leave us a review, because it truly, truly does help. And of course, you can follow us on socials at Crossplay Convos on BlueSky and all of those other ones somewhere, maybe. Welcome to 2025. We're going to see how it goes, but we're excited for games. Bye, everybody.